Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today, we're talking about this whopper, Janáček Sinfonietta, Taras Bulba, and added to this particular CD reissue, which is the Japanese one on Deutsche Grammophon, the Concertino and the Capriccio, his two major instrumental works with piano. Very strange, unusual instrumental works with piano. But the big deal was Sinfonietta and Taras Bulba. This is the original jacket. That was the original coupling, just the Sinfonietta and Taras Bulba. They're only about 22 minutes long each. And so, it wasn't a very long disc when it was first issued. And I remember when I found this, because I'd never heard of Janáček at all. I was a sophomore, freshman. I was a freshman in college, so I was 18. And I was at the Rotunda in Baltimore at Record Masters, and they were one of those old school classical record stores. They had a separate classical annex, actually, but they actually kept all of the recordings by label and catalog number. So you had your Schwann catalog and you would look up the composer, and I didn't do it that way. I just sat and went through the bins one disc at a time to see what was interesting. And this colorful cover caught my attention. It was strange looking, clearly. And I didn't really know Rafael Kubelik, and I didn't really know the Bavarian Radio Symphony Orchestra that well. And it was expensive for me at those days. But I said to the guys, who were very, very good to talk to and who knew tons and tons of music, who is Janáček and what the hell is this? And they said, oh, get it. just get it. You're going to love it. It's amazing. I said, okay, so I'll get it. So I got it, and I went home, and, I don't know if you all remember, but Deutsche Grammophon recordings were the absolute epicenter of like any sort of static electricity issue back in those days. They were in those slip cases that were, white paper with plastic liner. And, you could turn them upside down and shake them and nothing would happen. They wouldn't come out. So you'd grab the record, you'd sort of ooze it out where it was like magnetically or electrostatically attracted to the plastic. And you'd take it out and you'd hear this sound like bacon frying as every particle of dust in the room, formed this vortex that went, and stuck to your record. It was so annoying. So you could play them maybe once or twice, and then they would be crackling forever after until you found a way to demagnetize them. And they started to have those record demagnetizers and, fluid things to get rid of all of that static buildup. Anyway, so I brought it home and I got it out quickly and ran around trying to, avoid the dust vortex that was chasing me around my dorm room. And I put on the Sinfonietta. And I was like, oh, that's Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I've heard that before. Yeah, of course. It's the song Knife Edge. And I knew that, but I had no idea what the original sounded like. It's scored for 14 trumpets, 9 fanfare offstage trumpets, 3 normal trumpets, 2 bass trumpets, and then 2 tenor tubas, and timpani. That's just the fanfare stuff at the beginning. Well, the 3 orchestral trumpets don't play, but everything else does. And it's the most thrilling sound. It's primal, it's barbaric, it's exciting, it's modern, it has some crunching dissonances, but it's incredible. And the thing that's so cool about Janáček, and what Kubelik really, really does, is that he doesn't have ritornellos at the end of things. The music is racing along, and then all of a sudden, it stops. And the ending is startling because it just happens. And that's what happens here. And Kubelik does nothing to change that. A lot of performers, it's similar to the retard at the end of Baroque things that aren't written. Everyone slows down the last bar to make an effective ending. Well, Kubelik doesn't. So it's all going, ya, da, 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 da. And normally, at the end, the last chord on the trumpets is like, wah, timid just goes da 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 ba ba. Not here. It's just ya da 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 da. Cut off, and you're just like, whoa, that's a shock. And then immediately the second movement starts. Oh my God, was it exciting! It was so incredibly exciting, and that's what's so wonderful about these performances. That's what makes them one of the greatest recordings ever. It's not just that Kubelik totally respects Janáček's weirdness in, allowing his sense of rhythm and timing and all that to be absolutely paramount in these performances, but the Bavarian Radio Symphony Orchestra plays amazingly on these discs. I was reading fanfare reviews and reviews where they always talked about it was a schlomperei German orchestra. It never played well. Well, sometimes it was and sometimes it wasn't. They play well here. The sound of the massed trumpets has never been better caught by the engineers than here. They just have this wonderful wall of brassy opulence. It's just phenomenally, fabulously, wonderfully thrilling. And in Taras Bulba, the balance between the orchestra and the organ and the bells and all these things that are normally so problematic, the harps and all this, they get it just perfectly. And the performance of that is just like the Sinfonietta. It's raw and rough and direct, and it presents Janáček, as the sort of, barbarian that he really was. That his music has such visceral intensity, and you can't come between that. You can't. Even Antro with the Czech Philharmonic, who is fabulous, particularly in Taras Bulba's glorious performance. There's a natural tendency, just because of the way these players are trained, to round off the edges a little bit, to make a pretty sound, and just not let, the music suffice in its primal nakedness. But Kubelik was willing to do that, and he got the orchestra to do it. And that's just phenomenal. And in addition, you get here on this Japanese release, the Concertino and the Capriccio with Rudolf Firkushny, who, of course, studied with Janáček and who made the reference recording of Janáček's piano works, including these works, which he recorded a couple of times. And they are strange. The Concertino is a strange little piano concerto. And the Capriccio is for piano, left hand, flute, trumpet, tenor, tuba, trombones. It's just a weird ensemble of brass and a little bit of woodwind. Really, really sensationally strange and quirky music. But these two big orchestral pieces have never been better done. It's thrilling. And that's what makes this disc one of the greatest recordings ever. So keep on listening, friends, and thanks for joining me. Take care.